So, going through a number of rapid fire topics here, we'll start out with somebody unfortunately trying to impersonate Paul Harrell. So, about 9 days ago, as the time of this recording, Roy posted a message here on the Paul Harrell YouTube channel. Quote, I am forced to make this post to protect Paul's legacy and this channel. There is a recent new channel called Paul Harrell's Nephew. Let me make this clear. He is not related to my brother, the famous YouTuber Paul Harrell, in any way. He admits so in a video. This does not, however, stop him from using the misleading channel name, stealing videos, etc., etc. It's unfortunate, but unfortunately, Paul was right about what was going to happen. Some people are going to be trying to take advantage of his name. Another interesting thing that I saw pop up rather recently is this image floating around on Twitter. This is a 545 and a 762 by 54 new cartridge design. Honestly, this thing looks like it was meant to go into the SPEW program. This looks very much like the 22-06 duplex cartridges that were being experimented with in a few different rifles during the early years of the SPEW and Salvo projects. Basically, the idea was to get more bullets in the air with a single trigger pull. And it looks like the Russians are trying to do the exact same thing here with this particular cartridge case design. Now, I've previously already talked about attempts to take small buckshot and put them in either heat shrink, plastic tubing, or in 3D printed sabots, and put those into a standard 545 or 762 by 54 case, and use those as anti-drone ammo. It seems like this is the next evolution of that particular concept, where we see a much more formal, stacked bullet style of design. I'm not entirely sure how effective these are going to be. Battlefield conditions, testing, and reports and things like that have been somewhat limited so far, at least for what I've been able to get my hands on, so who knows, this could be a meme, this could be actually effective. I guess only time will tell. Drones really have kind of changed things up, and thus far the really only practical solution that I've seen thus far that I look at and say, that might actually work is, again, Norma's Adler shell, that 12-gauge tungsten load using number 6 shot. But other than that, I just thought that this was a curious development of things coming all the way back around. And of course, it seems that the firearms industry at large has a hard time understanding technology in general. I'm honestly not sure what to make of this. This right here is the Korth Bitcoin Revolver. I have no idea why they thought that this was going to be a good idea. This thing is interesting. Apparently they're only going to be making a few hundred of these and then destroying the tooling once they're done with this limited production run. I guess it's supposed to have like a accompanying EFT that goes along with it. Basically, it sounds like somebody in the marketing department heard every single buzzword and has spent the past 5-6 years trying to convince Korth to utilize those buzzwords in some sort of limited edition product, and they're probably about 3 to 5 years too late in coming to market with something like this, if it was ever even a viable product to begin with. But hey, it has a whole bunch of gold in it. At $84,000, I'm not entirely sure that this is a product for me. I don't have Saudi oil money, so if you do, let me know if you like this particular revolver and want to pick one of this limited edition up. And for our next rapid fire topic, we'll be talking about Trump's big, beautiful bill and how, in my opinion, it is not quite so big nor quite so beautiful. Now, this particular bill was supposed to include language from both the Hearing Protection Act as well as the Short Act. Basically, both of these would remove the short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, as well as other NFA items such as suppressors from the NFA. The Hearing Protection Act was supposed to do that, and the Short Act was supposed to do that same thing for short-barreled rifles, shotguns, etc. However, it looks like the usual suspects in the House Ways and Means Committee, a Republican-controlled committee, have decided that they are going to take the Hearing Protection Act and gut it, and then completely ignore the Short Act as well. Currently, the bill only has this following information, or text in it, saying that there shall be levied on firearms transferred a tax at the rate of $5 for each firearm transferred. In the case of a weapon classified as any other weapon, $0 for a firearm classified as a silencer, and $200 for any other firearms transferred. So this leaves the current short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun taxes in place, leaves suppressors on a national registry, and only really makes it for $5 for any other weapons. Why? Like, we have the numbers to make this happen, to remove these from the NFA and get stuff like this done. But unfortunately, it seems like the usual suspects don't want to make this happen. Quoting from the guns.com article here, quote, "This isn't a compromise, it's a betrayal," said Eric Pratt, Senior Vice President of Gun Owners of America. The House Ways and Means Committee chose to leave unconstitutional registration and taxes in place, even though they had a clear path to repeal them. GOA made it crystal clear that the full deregulation of suppressors and protection for brace owners was achievable under reconciliation. Lawmakers knew it, and they chose political convenience over principle. Gun owners won't forget this. I certainly won't either. Now, this is to say that we aren't completely without hope. Because of the point at which this bill currently sits, it still has to go through a number of other voting processes, so it is entirely possible that it can be lobbied for this language to be added back into the bill before finally being passed. Given the fact that this is an omnibus bill with multiple different things going on inside of it, it's entirely possible that we could get this language that we are looking for back into this bill and make it happen. My only advice for you would be to call up your current Congress critter and let them know that you support seeing a return for the language from the Short Act as well as the Hearing Protection Act back into Trump's one big beautiful bill, so it can be one big beautiful bill yet again. And for our final rapid fire topic for this episode, we have a rather interesting kind of sneak peek behind the curtains when it comes to how self-defense cases actually end up running. Now, this is a expert testimony statement from John Correa of the Active Self-Protection YouTube channel, as well as Active Self-Protection Extra. On his channel, both of them, he has been documenting this case and the fallout from this case. But this particular report does give you kind of an inside look at what a expert testimony looks like, the kind of things that they are considering in these use of force cases. And in this particular case, where a dog was charging an elderly man as well as his own dog, the elderly individual drew a revolver and defended himself from the dog who was charging him. And this report goes into all of the different experimental data, all of the different reaction times, shows in process how little time there is to react and assess such a situation fully. and how in this particular situation, the elderly gentleman was reasonably in fear for his life. Now, fortunately, due it probably in large part to this kind of expert testimony, the defendant, the person who had to defend themselves in this particular situation, was eventually acquitted of all of the charges by a jury. However, it was still quite frightening how such a relatively clear case of lawful self defense against a charging animal could turn into such a massive case. Now, not only did Active Self Protection also post this particular expert witness report, but also a full length video of the defendant and his interrogation with the police. And you can see in this interrogation a number of different ways how the police attempted to fabricate things, put words into the defender's mouth, and try to make the narrative fit their preconceived conceptions about what happened. I think this is interesting viewing and something that people should be aware of if they are going to carry and be potentially in a situation where they have to defend themselves or their loved ones with the use of deadly force. These kinds of things can and will happen where the police decide they have their own preconceived theory of what happened. They're going to try and make you agree to that, and they're going to use every trick in the book to make that happen. But that wraps up all of our rapid fire topics for today's episode. If you have any thoughts, comments about any specific one, let me know in the comment section below. If you have any other topics that you'd like to see us cover, comment with those below and we'll try and sneak them into the next episode. We are currently trying to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so if you could like, share, subscribe, we'd really love it because we want to grow Cap and Ball on YouTube and spread our message of promoting the Second Amendment in the digital age. Now, on to our next topic.